I'll bet you're using some bulk fill restorative resins. Are they working well? We have with us today Chris Howell, who's done an enormous amount of research on many brands. That's just a few of them there. Some of them are light cured, some of them are dual cured. It's pretty interesting. There is a dual cured one that's been heavily marketed. Here's another dual cured one that's extremely low cost. And there's another one that they're hyping for crowns. Tell us about the differences and whether or not they're meeting their claims.
Well, as you know, one of the great challenges for bulk cure is light attenuation, is getting the light down into deep cavities, etc., to cure the material. That's where a dual cure composite would help a lot, in that it doesn't matter as much if you get the light down into the deep areas, because chemically it will convert and polymerize.
Right.
So in that respect, dual cures certainly are making the mark in terms of depth of cure, the 4+ millimeters.
I hope you got that point. It's an important point.
Absolutely.
Dual cure works. Now let's talk about the other.
Now there's
aspect.
Multiple packables and flowables out there that are also light cure, and out of the ones that we tested, now this is under ideal conditions, of course, all of them were able to cure a minimum of 4 millimeters. Now, when I say cure, that means that at 4 millimeters, the Vickers hardness was within 90% of what we saw at the surface.
Now, remember what he said, under ideal circumstances, directly perpendicular, everything is ideal. You're not going to get that in the mouth, though.
Now, here is the potential drawback, especially if you're using a dual cure material. If you are not using a chemical cure activator, either in the adhesive that you're using or in the composite, there's not a very good chance that your composite will will adhere to your adhesive. So it's important to make sure in those situations that you get light penetration to those areas so that you get that composite locked down. Now, one of the ways that they were able to minimize the shrinkage forces, which is another thing we're concerned about with any composite resin, was to make these resins more flexible, to make them more elastic band-like. And we're able to measure using a deflection test that they, in some cases, were able to reduce that shrinkage stress by up to 50%. The drawback there, though, the trade-off, is that these materials tend to stress the teeth more. They tend to, research shows, wear quicker. And because of that, with the, if you've got a cavity right through the center of the tooth, you're going to get live edges of teeth that get caught and fracture very easily. So
Sounds like a trade-off.
A little bit,
Okay.
yeah.
When we end this thing in a minute or two, we're going to have to make a conclusion and help you make a conclusion. Yes, they're working, but it's the trade-off.
Absolutely.
The problem.
Well, and in certain circumstances, I would say that it is a problem because, again, with the different densities, it's the materials aren't as hard. They don't have the compressive strengths, and like I said, they don't have the higher flexural modulus that you need to have. Remember, when we're restoring tooth material, we want to restore it with material that has as close to the physical properties that tooth material has. And when we're using material that's more flexible and softer, right, you run into problems. You run into differentiations in wear rates, as well as different rates of expansion and contraction when you heat and cool it.
So when would be a clinical situation or two where the dual cure would be advantageous? How about a large restoration?
In a situation like that, if you wanted to use it as a dent and replacement material, I think you'd be great. And if you came over the top of it with a packable, sculptable composite, you'd save on your finishing restoration time. You wouldn't have to cut that material back, as well as gain the not only the aesthetic properties, but the physical properties that you see with the packable composite.
There are some very good brands out there, and you can do the same technique as you're doing with temporaries, and other than squirting into that blue mousse impression a Bisacryl, you squirt in a Bulk EZ or a Luxa crown, and now you have a crown that will last years.
Absolutely.
I guess the bottom line is, yes, they work. However, there are a few trade-offs. Is that right?
Yeah.
Thanks for being with us.
Perfect.
We appreciate it. Thanks for being with us. Join us next week.